It's time to look at another release from Diecast Masters. And starting with the outer shipping carton, it's model number 85757, which is a Caterpillar D8 Dozer. As part of this review, we'll also compare it to the waste handler version reviewed previously.
Let's weigh it up.
We chuck it onto the weighbridge and it comes in at 2 pounds 5 ounces, and that's just over 1 kilogram. This is the usual high-quality Diecast Masters packaging for the Highline series of models, and inside the outer shipping carton is a nylon bag containing the tin. Out comes the tin, and it's high quality. To begin with, there's a very nice photo of the real Dozer on the lid, and on the front face there's a picture of the model. And there's a QR code to download the Diecast Masters catalogue. As usual, on the back of the tin there's technical information about the real machine. Let's open the tin and see what's inside. We start with a couple of pieces of paperwork, and there's also a bag containing some parts and an operator. And there's also an operator handling device. The next job is to lift out the top layer of foam that's in the tin, and it's a tight fit. And with that done, we can see the model sitting inside. Next, we need to pull the model out, and we need to be a little bit careful to grip it in the right place. And that's because it's a tight fit and you don't want to damage anything delicate. As we saw earlier, there are a couple of bits of paperwork, and one is instructions that deal with inserting the operator. And on this version of the model, it also covers inserting the ripper teeth. Also included is a little mini leaflet, but it's best to use the QR code to get up-to-date information. Going back to the model, there is one piece of packaging to remove, and that is some protection for the crawler tracks. To start the assembly, we need to add the ripper teeth into the ripper. There are 3 of them, and you insert them into the underneath of the ripper attachment. And once they're in, you have an option of 2 pinning positions. For this assembly, we'll set the depth to the shallow option. Once the tooth is in place and you've got the holes properly lined up, you can insert the small pins that are provided. And we fast forward to all 3 teeth installed. One thing to note though is that installing the middle pin is particularly tricky because of the limited space. Next, we will condemn the operator to a lifetime of servitude in the cab. And to do that, we just unclip the plastic roof, which gives us a chance to look inside the cab. And then we use the operator installation tool to carefully put the operator inside. Squeezing the operator's head will prevent any resistance. Once he's in, you can put the roof back on, and if you want to enjoy being cruel, you can superglue it shut.
Let's weigh it up again.
At this point, the D8 finds itself on the weighbridge, and it's just under 15 ounces, which is 420 gramlets. As usual, we start underneath, and at the back is the ripper attachment. The underside of the Dozer is fairly simple, with a couple of deep holes for securing screws, and at the front the underside of the blade has some detail. The metal crawler tracks are very good, and the track frames have rollers indicated, although they're non-functional. The track pads themselves are detailed. Moving to the ripper attachment, and the big teeth are nice and sharp, with the silver pins just standing out a little. The rivets are painted and there are some tiny graphics, and the hydraulic rams have plastic jackets. There are hydraulic hoses with fairly crude attachment points. At the back of the cab there are sharp graphics, and there's an air conditioning unit up at the roof. There's also a windscreen wiper. Looking inside the cab, here we have the operator installed, and without him you can see that there's Cat on the seat back, and there's a large monitor screen at the front but without any graphics. And a nice touch on the inside is the textured floor, and the joysticks can be clearly seen. Outside the cab there are handrails, and they're made of soft plastic. The cab roof is also a plastic part, which does allow it to have some detail. The walkway surfaces have some texturing. The engine compartment has metal grab rails, and the large grille is formed of graphics. At the front, the cat name sits above the radiator, and other details include the armoured hose for the Dozer blade hydraulics. At the top of the blade rams, lights are detailed, and there's also some hydraulic hoses running to the top of the ram jackets. The large metal blade has got some wear plate detailing, and the grille at the top is actually a plastic part, and as a result it's very slightly off colour. So this model is 85757, the D8 Dozer. There's also a sister model which is 85758, which is the D8 in a waste handler configuration. So let's have a look at the differences between the two models. At the front you might just be able to see that the two blades are a different colour, and they are of a different type. On top of the engine compartment, the air intakes are very different sizes. And if we go to the back, one has the ripper attachment, and the waste handler has a box. The crawler tracks roll very freely, but there's no working articulation and oscillation of the track frames. Out onto the patented Cranes etc. test track, and the model rolls along very well because the crawler tracks are able to bite into a rough surface. Looking closer at the free-rolling crawler tracks, we can see that they are tensioned by spring-loaded idlers. At the front of the D8, the height of the Dozer blade can be adjusted, and the hydraulic rams are stiff enough to hold a pose. And the height of lift is quite good. There's no real rotation of the blade possible, nor is there any usable tilt. But with that said, you can get a good looking pose from the blade. Let's move round to the back of the machine and take a look at the ripper. As mentioned earlier, the depth of the teeth can be adjusted by a different pinning position, and the hydraulics allow adjustment of the height and angle of the teeth. Another option you have for the model is to use it as a transport load, and to improve the look it is good that you can remove the operator. This is a solid offering of the Caterpillar D8 by Diecast Masters. As usual, the presentation is very high quality with its metal tin, and the model itself has some very nice detailing. There's also some decent functionality of both the blade and the ripper attachment. Overall, this is a good looking model of this large machine, and it's rated as very good.